Welcome to the Necessary Conversation, midweek edition. Today, we are blessed to have a very important guest. She is an actress, singer, songwriter, drag queen, and activist. She was the first out transgender player on RuPaul's Drag Race Season 9, where she finished in second place. She was a lead on Broadway in the Go-Go's inspired musical Head Over Heels. She has released 2 full albums, 5 EPs. She was banished, in my opinion, way too early on
Yes.
Season 2 of The Traitors US. Along with friend of the Necessary Conversation, Bob the Drag Queen, she co-founded Black Queer Town Hall, a nonprofit committed to celebrating Black queer excellence by supporting and cultivating community, sharing knowledge, and uplifting voices. We are humbled. We are honored that she is now sharing her knowledge and time with us today. Please welcome to the show a superstar in every sense of the word, Peppermint.
Yay.
Well,
Welcome.
hello. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here with the family. What a wonderful intro. Thank you. I'm
My
so excited.
pleasure.
Huge fan.
Oh, well, I
Wow,
mean, I
thank
can say
you.
the same. I do
Thank
another
you.
podcast that's a reality TV coverage podcast. And
I
so
know.
season 2 of The Traitors was like, God, it was mind blowing. And I'm sorry
Yeah,
that you got banished so early. I wanted to see what you were going to do in that
me
game.
too, me too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you. Maybe they'll bring me back for All Stars or something. Who knows if
yeah.
they do something like that. But I really do. I love the show. I love shows like that. And
Mm.
yeah, they got me. I'll have to come. We'll have to talk when the subject is reality TV. But they got me now.
Absolutely.
They got me.
Hmm.
Well, first of all, thank you for doing this. And my first question to you is, why are you doing this? Why are you on our show right now?
Wait a minute. I thought this was a different show. No, I love the show. I love your family. I think I first sort of discovered you on social media with everyone else with an early clip. I don't even know if it was a clip of the show or just a clip of you and your mom
Mhm.
initially, like that kicked off the whole thing. But I fell in love. I fell in love with the candor with which you all speak to each other. Sometimes it gets a little wild, but the love is always there, which is
Yeah.
great. And you have some great examples. And, obviously these are necessary conversations, just like the namesake. And so I'm happy to finally be having one.
All right. Well, like I said, thanks for being here. I'm very curious to see, Mom, what your reaction is going to be. But I wanted to, if you wouldn't mind, Peppermint, just kind of laying out a basic a basic life story, if you wouldn't mind. Where did you grow up? How did you grow up? When did you become kind of socially, politically active, motivated, and what were the triggers in your life that made you kind of go down that path?
I mean, who said I grew up? I resent that. Yeah.
Apologies.
I'm from the East Coast. I'm an East Coast gal. Was born in Pennsylvania, but grew up in the sort of the Delaware, Maryland, Virginia area, and then I was always like super. My family's like very. I guess liberal is the word. Like they were all
Mhm.
Democrats and very liberal, and I sort of carried that ideology and sort of like that thought, proudly into my adulthood. And I always knew that I was queer, which kind of made me feel a little bit marching to the beat of a different drummer. Sometimes I was like, experience bullying and teasing and things like that. So that gave me an awareness about myself that I think a lot of people don't always have right out of the gate.
Mhm.
And I eventually moved to New York for college in the late 90s. And was here in New York during 9/11. I'm still in New York. And I think, I think I became more politically active just sort of by default. As of course, people who are queer or who are, part of a marginalized group, different minorities, they're no stranger to having to at least think about asserting or fighting for their rights in a way that might be different for someone who's not any of those groups.
Mhm.
Straight, heterosexual, white or white passing, um, American U.S. citizen. Like those sort of descriptors mean that you might not face. You're not going to face like anti-Black discrimination necessarily if you have white skin.
Right.
It could
Right.
happen, but probably not.
Yeah. Yeah, mom,
Stranger
have you
things have
ever
happened.
experienced that?
Yeah.
Certainly, even this week, stranger things have happened.
Yeah.
Right.
Uh, but but ultimately coming out as trans, being queer for sure, and then being trans, which I came out, when I was, I don't know, in my 30s, about more than 10 years ago. I, you know, suddenly I was a part of a group, a part of another group, who were constantly in the headlines, constantly being talked about, whether we have the right to do this, should we be allowed here,
Hmm.
everybody's asking everybody what they think about people like me, except for asking people like me. Like
Right.
we're not allowed to be in the conversation. And
Hmm.
so that's kind of what got me more politically active, I would say. And then that, I think LGBTQ issues were not really things that even the president and people in the higher ups of the federal government were really talking about. I remember like hoping and begging that like Obama would just mention the word LGBT in his speech, just say the word.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
that was like, oh, it was like,
Right.
I remember feeling like, oh my God, they said, and like feeling like we won.
Yeah,
Uh,
well, he was the first president to ever mention, transgender people, period. And
Period.
it
And it
was
was a mention.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So that felt like a big accomplishment. And then, but it's sort of like an entire lifetime has happened since that moment to where we are now, where the president is actively saying in his very first speech, as in the second term that recently, that he's going to target trans people and make sure that there's no gender affirming care. Like that was in his like not inaugural speech, but his like first speech after his inauguration
Yeah.
from the
Mhm.
White
No,
House.
I made a little list here. He's issued multiple executive orders in this term, in his second term. They overtly harm the trans and non-binary communities, refusing to issue passports to transgender and non-binary citizens, eliminating federal funding for schools that recognize trans rights, outlawing gender-affirming care in hospitals, banning trans athletes from playing sports, barring transgender citizens from serving in the military, removing public health data from federal databases that benefit trans community. The list goes on and on and on. What has it been like for you in this, like, whatever it's been, about a year and a half since he was back in office?
It's terrifying, to be honest with you. And
Yeah.
this second administration, the second term, is sort of a sort of the first term on steroids. We got a taste of a lot of these things. I mean, very early
Mhm.
on in his first administration, I think it was 2017, where he, enacted a trans military ban and was toying with and teasing with speaking about the trans community in a sort of really not so nice way.
Hmm.
And so we were getting tastes of all those things, but they were at from the top down. There was a lot less. Most of what we were seeing was happening at the state level, which was obviously supported by his administration and emboldened by the administration, but not necessarily. He wasn't like putting us in executive orders in the way that he is now. Whereas, I mean, I think in 2016, there were like 30 or 40, like less than 100 anti-trans and anti-LGBT, but specifically anti-trans pieces of legislation or policies in the states, many of which were fought in court and then won, um, as opposed to in this term, 2025, 2026. Currently, this year there's over 700 pieces
Jesus
of
Christ.
anti-trans
Yeah.
And what's the percentage of trans people in the United States?
Uh, it, I don't know the percentage of trans people that are in the United States currently, but we are like
Right.
about 1% of the population, like conversationally. Now
Right.
that doesn't account for people who don't feel safe to come out of, like, that. It's almost like saying, I mean, it's mostly statistically, right? But so, there are certainly people who are homosexual but aren't
Mhm.
counted in the numbers of
I have to
official
excuse
numbers.
myself real quick. I
Yeah.
Oh,
apologize. I've
no,
gotta excuse myself real quick. I'll be right back. Oh my god.
okay.
Is dad screaming out there?
Yes, just a minute. I'm so sorry. I'll be
All right.
right
When
back.
you come back, mom, I
Okay.
have a question for you. Yeah, no, that's like one of the wildest pieces of
Yeah.
this, is that it's like, in terms of whatever the statistics may be of the population, the amount of legislation that is against
It's
trans
insane.
people is absolutely crazy.
I mean, it's definitely, we're overrepresented in terms of like the effort and energy that people are putting into making laws and policies. But and on one hand, it is cruel and it is real. So the impact is real. I am, I'm someone who works as a drag entertainer and then also now a little bit more in advocacy. But I travel a lot for work, also internationally. And I am now, I can't believe I'm in the same boat as Caitlyn Jenner,
Mm.
where I am facing not being able to travel within the next 6 months when my passport expires, because getting a renewal means that I'll be having a mismatched piece of identification. And it
Mm,
is, I think a lot of people might think, oh, well, whatever, you just go with a mismatched identification. But the thing is, especially now, probably more than ever, our passports, our IDs, our information are all, thanks to Palantir and other, and probably Elon Musk as well, they're sort of organizing all of our digital data so that it's all on one database. That's what they're
mhm,
attempting to do, which means if there's a discrepancy with the DMV back in like 1800, if there was a discrepancy with it, well, they didn't have passports in 1800, but like back in like 20 years ago or 30 years ago, if you had a discrepancy between your license and your passport, no one would really know necessarily.
mhm.
But now that information is flagging as a red flag on your profile, that there's a
Yeah.
discrepancy
Right.
in your profile.
Right.
And so my ID won't match. Um, and luckily, though, I live in New York, so I'm more shielded from the impacts of the administration, namely the big beautiful bill that's kicking people off of their health insurance. Certainly, trans people are sort of doubly kicked off. There's people who are kicked off their health insurance, just period.
Mhm.
But for trans people or anyone who's in that DEI group that you mentioned, the list of names that had to be removed from
Yeah.
federal databases and documents and on all types of things, that also applies to insurances. And so, a year or two ago or before this administration, it was my doctor knew that I was transgender, so they were treating me in a way that's in accordance with that. Receiving certain therapies and medications. That's what would be listed on my, I guess, insurance. They need to like list
Mhm.
everything, code everything for medical billing. But now they're erasing us from medical billing, which means that there's not even going to be a way to acknowledge the need for the medication that I need, you know?
Yeah. Mom, you've been sitting here pretty much silent other than having to go tend to Dad when he was screaming at you in the other room. But this is, I'm assuming, the first conversation you've ever had with a transgender person. Is that accurate, Mom?
Yes.
Okay.
So
And
if
so,
I want to say this, if I say anything wrong, I don't mean to offend you. I don't know a lot about it, so I don't want to offend you. Already, I really, really like you. I want to ask you a question. When
Yeah,
you
for
said
I
you
say
got
I'd be offended if you didn't offend me. How about that?
when you said you were bullied, what age did you get bullied and why? And were you a male? I mean, were you a boy then? And see, I don't want that to offend you. I don't understand.
Don't worry. I was assigned male at birth, so most of my experiences were through that lens, and I didn't transition medically, which most of the transition that people think about when they think of trans person is medical things, but
Mhm.
the social transition is the bigger part of it, which is like clothing, hairstyle, things like that.
Okay.
But most of my transition didn't happen until later on. I mean, I I was born in the 70s. And so, like I didn't have access to some of the things that even younger folks hopefully have access, well, are losing access to
Mhm.
today. So yeah, I was bullied. I think people, when they saw me, if you saw me, you would think, wow, that is a very feminine little boy. Like that's what you would say. And it would
Oh.
be emphasis would be like, wow, what's going on? And
So
now we
you
know
got
what's going on.
bullied because of that. You got bullied because of that.
Mhm.
And what age was that? Like high school then or?
Definitely high school, but as soon as I got into a room with a bunch of other kids, so preschool,
Oh,
before
wow.
first grade, second grade, third grade. It was like a thing by second grade. So much so that I didn't have a ton of friends. Most of my friends were the gals, which, makes sense. But I had a friend who was there was a transfer student from another country, from Ireland. His name was Gavin. And we've spoken since, so he's okay with me saying his name. And I remember coming out to him, and I didn't really we were in second grade. I did not have the language to come out to him in the way that I would today, but I did tell him that, in a very serious and dramatic way, listen, I'm different. And he understood exactly what I meant. And he was like, it's okay, blah, 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 blah. And there was nothing more to say, at that point, at that such a young age. But um, I, I had felt the need to articulate that. So I know that I was having sort of bullying experiences or teasing experiences
That young
before that
then.
moment. Yeah.
But you dress like a boy then, or a little girl, or lean more girl dressing, or
Yeah, I dressed in like jeans and a t-shirt or whatever you would dress your son in at that age, going to school.
okay,
I didn't really appear probably sort of as female to people until high school. That was the first time I
okay,
was able to sort of have independence, and like
okay.
not have
So
to go
high
home
school.
after school right away, things like that. Was able
And
to
they
have a little
kept
bit more.
bullying you then too, that age?
Oh yes, that was when it
Even
became more
worse.
physical. Yeah.
Even worse. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
But mom,
I'm
like
sorry.
one of
Yeah.
your kind of main points of contention whenever this type of thing gets talked about on our show is that you believe little kids can't, in quotes, make the choice,
I know.
that they're too
Well,
young and all of
not
this
make
stuff.
the choice, but that they feel that. And now that
Right.
Peppermint, correct, just told
Yeah.
me that. Is that what I should call you? That's your name, right?
Yes, please. That's my name.
Yeah.
Is
I
that
know it's
what
a
you want me
conventional
to
name.
call
But what
you?
what
Is
Peppermint
that
is
what you
She's
saying
want me to call
is
Peppermint.
that this was in the 70s. I don't know how old exactly you are. I'm assuming 29 years of age, just like me.
Yes.
Also born in the 70s. We are both
Yeah,
29 forever. Let's agree on that
that's
now.
it.
Peppermint is more
Correct?
Haley's
Perfect.
age, I think. I think Peppermint could be more Haley's age.
We're getting into murky territory here. So
Okay, you don't like that.
Sorry. Listen, I
Well,
live
guess
in that
what?
murky territory at this point.
Guess what?
I'm just saying, like,
I
imagine when I was
wait,
in
no,
second
wait.
grade,
Guess
what the
what? I
world
like
was
to be a
like
right
then.
on.
private
You know what
eye.
I mean?
I like to be a private eye. I told you that, Chad. I
Okay.
think that could be
Oh,
my second
Jesus.
job. And she's
Very
Okay.
intuitive.
Peppermint is Haley's age.
Okay,
Okay.
Close.
whatever. Let's say
Okay.
Haley's age. Imagine when Haley was in the second grade, that era. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Imagine what the
Yes.
world was like back then, and imagine a
Yes.
kid knowing enough about themselves to know this in that era. It was
Without
Nobody
before
would probably
woke, it was
listen.
before
Nobody would
everything.
listen. Yeah.
Right, but I'm saying it was before all the things that you say contribute to a kind of brainwashing epidemic that is happening. It was before those things even existed. There was no
Right.
Trump in politics. Woke was not
Right.
a terminology. None of that
Mhm.
existed. And here
There
you've
wasn't
got
even a sense of much community. I mean, at that age, for sure. I didn't know that I belonged to what we would later refer to as the LGBTQ plus
right.
community. I just thought I knew I was different, and I knew that I was catching a lot of flack for it, and I thought I was the only one. And I know that there's even people who are maybe not so much now, but certainly people who are like in their 20s or 30s, late 20s, early 30s, or older, who even as gay had the experience of feeling like they were alone, until they were able to meet other people later on. And so, yeah, I knew that you know, I knew that I was very, very different when it came to what we would call gender and potentially even sexuality later on. I didn't describe it in that way in second grade to Gavin on the playground,
Right.
but I knew that that meant, and I always gravitated towards, and if I had my choice, I would have desperately wanted to wear, I didn't care whether I was wearing a dress or not, but I just wanted to be free of being teased and targeted for the way I spoke or walked or picked up a drink or whatever I was doing. Like every single thing I was doing, mostly my mannerisms were under scrutiny by other people. And I didn't learn how to do that from a book or like watch some TV show. There was none of that. I was
Did
alone. I
your
thought I was the only human.
did your parents or siblings realize this when you were that little too,
You
or
know what?
not?
I still haven't spoken to them about what they thought about me when I was younger. It was there's no way that they could have thought like, oh, this one's going to be like a basketball player. Like, there's no way. There's no way.
Our family kind of did. Yeah. Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
and so, they were supportive. And I would say the word that I would use to describe it now, looking back, would be tolerant. You know,
Okay.
So, Mom, you've been sitting here a minute. We've been having this conversation for a minute. Is your general ideology changing at all? Are you feeling like are you getting
Yeah, a little bit.
okay?
I like Peppermint.
I like you
Yeah.
too.
I want Peppermint to be happy.
Okay, great.
But
But so
there's one other part I would like to discuss.
Hit
The
me, gal.
I'm gonna hit you. I won't hit you hard. I like you, Peppermint. The part about boys play boys sports, girls play girl sports. So if you were born biologically a man or a boy, don't you feel that, you're strong? Are you stronger than most females? You know, that's the part where I kind of go down a rabbit hole and go, I don't I think boys should play boys sports, girls should play girl sports. But then if you, what do you call it, where you've gone from a boy to a girl, right? Am I doing this right? I have no idea.
Yeah,
I don't
I'm wait. Yeah, yes, I'm
Like,
with you. I'm following you.
you hear kind of what I'm saying? So now, I don't know. Do you play boys sports or do you play girl sports?
Listen, I think all sports should be immediately outlawed. I hate sports. I think
Really?
they're terrible. Yes, get rid of them. Sports
Just
should be
get rid of them.
illegal.
that's a hardcore take.
Just
And I'm
get rid
sticking
of
by it. You all want to cry about sports? How about no sports for anybody? Yeah, I don't. So I don't play sports. I did.
Okay.
I was forced to be in gym class
Okay.
You
against
do
my will.
you play, in my opinion, the greatest sport in existence, which is reality television.
Reality TV.
I
Uh,
mean, that's
don't get
some
me started.
athleticism. That's true.
I mean,
Um,
beyond athleticism, the psychological component required to be a
Psychological,
reality player to make
warfare.
it to on a season of Drag Race to make it to the finals. There is a certain skill set that almost no one has, and I view it as the same level as professional sports, athletics, if you will.
I'll take that. And I was kind of teasing a little bit before. But to
Sure,
answer your
sure.
question, Mom, listen. This is a hefty conversation. And I'm not an athlete, but I think first and foremost, there's two reasons people join sports. As a youngster, or someone who's not professional, they join it for community, they join it for
Right.
connection and
Yeah.
fun. And
Fun.
then as an adult, or as a professional athlete,
It's a
professional
different
or
thing.
Olympian, it's
Yeah.
a completely different thing. It's for
Different.
contracts and money and all different types of
Gold
things.
medals.
Gold
Yeah.
medals. And so
Right.
that's something. Those are two different reasons I think that people join sports, and I think that a lot of the conversation about sports sort of hinges on this sort of
Right.
biological argument and the notion of fairness. And
Right.
I do think that like sports should be fair. I think that team sports or competitive sports should be fair. I think that fairness should come from the results and sort of working backwards. Whoever is the tallest should be grouped with the tallest. Whoever
Mhm.
is this weight class or the strongest should be grouped with people that lift the same amount of weight that they do. Otherwise, if it's a gendered class, a sex or gendered separation, then you are going to get, especially if it is not professional sports, you're going to get girls who are stronger and taller than other girls. That's a natural, that happens. That's
Right.
human bodies develop in different ways. And I know that there are we generalize a lot, but I think one of the things that we've gotten wrong with the notion of sex classifications and gender classifications is that all women are the same. that all
Mm.
women's bodies
Hmm.
are the same and all women have the same exact abilities in the same way. That's not true. And, one size fits all really doesn't work. It doesn't work in the clothing stores. It doesn't work in terms of the choices that women want to make for themselves. And neither are men. And so
Exactly.
I think that's an important thing to think of when we think of fairness. It's really, I'm sure that whoever came in 29th to Michael Phelps is like inhuman wingspan. They talk about his
Right.
wingspan and how
It's
Yeah.
crazy.
superhuman he is. you
Yeah.
know, I'm sure that whoever came in 29th would like to say, you know what? That's not fair. And I know that people say that um, medical transition can can or would potentially like aid people sort of as a performance enhancing drug or something like that. But the truth is when you look at the bodies and the pardon me, the when you look at the numbers of for trans people, whether it's our, sort of like medical numbers, if you're testing our hormones and all these different things that you might test, um, most trans women are in line with cisgender women who are natural born biological women, whatever word you want to use. Non-trans women are honestly about in line. And there was actually a report that several reports, but there was one that came out by a really reputable source. I don't have it because I wasn't sure we were going to talk about sports. That recently came out that people should look up. That gives evidence that they've done recent studies, and trans women athletes do not have an overwhelming advantage or much of an advantage, and actually, in many, because they have different sort of categories. Many times are clocking in at a disadvantage than to their cis counterparts. And what I want people to do when they think of the argument of sports is what people tend to do is they say, we don't want men, grown, muscular 70-year-old men or 40-year-old men competing against young toddler baby girls. That's
Mm.
not happening anywhere. It's not men against girls. These are people of the same age group, the same, like they're more similar than they are dissimilar when it comes to like it's not a man with little girls.
Yeah.
These are people of this similar age, similar classifications, and a lot of times similar abilities. If you're going to try out for the team, they'll either put you on the JV team or the varsity team or whatever, however they do it. I can't believe I'm even talking about that. I have no idea what that. But they'll already group you. The coach or whoever's in charge of putting you on the team after the auditions, tryouts, whatever they are, will group you according to your ability. You know what I mean? They're going to put together the team that they think is the best that can win.
I
And
understand. Yeah, I
yeah.
understand all that, what you're saying. But I think the word you said was medically transition. As you have medically transitioned
Mhm.
to the other, what's it called? Not side, sex. Yeah. If you have transitioned from, let's say, a female to a male,
Hmm.
then they're going to give hormones. They're going to give testosterone, right? And like
HRT.
muscle enhancing things to get stronger.
Mhm.
So I don't know, just my mind, just my mind. I'm thinking boys should compete with boys, girls with girls that
But
you were born
But what
with.
what
But you're
but
But
making the
then,
argument. Oh, go ahead, Hannah.
uh-huh. But
what
then if you transition, that's the part I don't know where you go. Which
so
sport would
Peppermint
you
was
go?
trying to
Olympic, but
she was
Olympic.
trying to say that so HRT works, for both men and women, for both female and male. So like, if you're a trans man, you are going to be taking testosterone. If you're a
Yeah.
trans woman, you're going to be you're taking testosterone blockers and then upping your estrogen. So in essence, like the strength that you had prior to transition starts to diminish quite a bit because you are no longer fully loaded with testosterone like you were before. So like if you're a trans woman competing in the Olympics, like you do not have the testosterone that you had prior. You're taking HRT to level that shit out.
But if you're a
So
male, if you're a
But
woman going to be a male, don't you get a whole bunch of testosterone to make
Yeah,
bigger
and so that
muscles and
that
be
makes you a very strong person with huge muscles who would compete
right?
against, and you would. So most trans men, not all, because everybody's not
Mhm.
they're monolith, but most trans men who decide to medically transition and decide to take, testosterone and other cross-sex hormones, will develop. Their body will start to change eventually. Will develop stronger muscles. They'll get stronger. They'll develop more body hair. Their body shape and
Right,
size will will transform to look like
right,
what you would say is a man walking down the street. And so, who would that person compete against? If they can now bench 300 pounds,
right,
they should go with the people who can also bench 300 pounds, which are the men.
mhm.
right. You're right.
But
Yeah, I
mom, you're
guess.
also
Yeah.
missing
I
the
don't know.
bigger point that Peppermint was making is like even in like guys sports, let's say, there is such a disparity between physical abilities,
Mhm.
physiques, all that. There's a guy in
Right,
the NBA
right,
right now called Victor
right.
Wembanyama, aka Wemby. His nickname is the Alien. This fucking guy is 7'5". He's getting 7 to 10 blocks per
Yeah,
game, and it's just because he's like, it looks like LeBron
really
James
big.
looks like a child standing next to him
Okay,
because he's
number.
so huge. He's a monster,
Mhm.
the alien, as I said. And so
And
it's
what's
like
his phone
even
number?
what's
Yeah.
I
I
hate to
don't
tell
like
you,
sports, but I
yeah,
like them now.
you would have to go to a basketball game or two, maybe, if you started dating Victor
That's
Wembanyama.
big. I'm melting.
But I'm just saying, like, within any sport, like, part of what makes sports interesting is that there's a drastic physical diversity in
Yeah.
skills, physique, strength, stamina, whatever, all that. And that's what you're watching. These people are competing on a stage that kind of like objectively lays out here's the rules of this game. What can you do
Mhm.
within the confines of those
I
rules,
mean,
given your
I
abilities?
played college sports, you know that. I just wouldn't want to get I even played with I had to beat one time a one-armed girl. Do you know how hard that was in tennis? But I beat her and I won.
Okay.
I mean, it was
Wait,
a match.
and it was
It
Wait,
was a
harder for
match.
you?
yeah, hard for you
It
or
was
her? I'm
it was
confused.
hard for me to beat her. I mean, I beat her. I could have beat her
You
like 0 and
felt
0,
bad?
6-0, 6-0. I felt bad in my heart because she only had
Oh,
one arm.
I
So
see.
I wanted to,
you think that she should have not been able to compete?
no, she should have been able to compete, but I hated the handicap that she had because I knew I could wipe her out and beat her just straight up, and I did.
But
But I did it
so would
because it
that be
was
an argument for you having to go to a different, like, what would compared to the trans sort of argument, where
uh,
would either of you where should they have moved either of you if they weren't going to have you compete against each
well, now today, I guess in today's time, there are handicap divisions or what's it
The
called? Like
yeah,
para
Paralympics.
Olympics and things
Mhm.
like that. And at the
other?
time that I played back in the 70s, there really weren't. It was just coming
Well, I
around.
think, like, what you're failing to acknowledge is that trans women are women and that trans men are men. You just have to acknowledge that. It's just another woman competing in a female sport.
And even if you don't want to acknowledge that, I work very closely with my doctor to take the medications and continue my treatments and therapies related to my transition. And all of these are carefully considered and all according to the numbers. They look at my level of estrogen and we try to get it into the range. And it is a wide range for cisgender women, non-trans women. Um, who are assigned female at birth, like depending on, if you're on your cycle or like there's a lot of things that would make your hormones fluctuate, obviously. And so the range is a wide range. And so within that range is where we try to go from
Mm.
zero to up to that range. Cause I naturally, because of where I am personally in my medical transition, I don't create any hormones, which means I know a lot of people think of hormones as like something that is like makes you feel pretty or whatever, but like the human body needs them for
Yeah.
your endocrine
Mhm.
system. And I don't create any. So it's medically necessary for me to be on hormones, period. And so mine are within the range of a cisgender woman, and trans men. Their goal is to be within the range of a normal average cisgender non-trans man. But if you're talking about an athlete, then that's something completely different, because I can
Right.
guarantee you, me against the WNBA, or even me against the high school girls, um,
Ain't
whatever
happening. Yeah.
basketball thing,
Yeah.
Ain't
I
happening. Yeah.
know that they are more muscular, more athletic, faster, quicker, stronger, more
Yeah.
skilled, um, and
Right.
probably, depending on, we know that your body sort of gives you what you need when you're doing the physical
Okay.
thing that you're doing. A lot of women develop and have more testosterone, like women athletes might have more testosterone, more muscle mass, all these things. That's more than the average person. And I'm in line with an average woman, not an
Okay.
athlete at
Hmm.
all, you know?
Okay. Okay. Why do I always read stories then? I mean, I don't understand this either, where,
You need to
um,
unfollow J.K. Rowling, darling.
Yeah.
I
No
need to
shit.
what? I need to
Unfollow
what?
J.K. Rowling,
J.K.
the writer of
Rowling,
Harry Potter.
she
Oh,
is like
no.
transphobic
You
Yeah.
know where I'm
really
coming
badly.
from? I'm coming from, I read these stories where, like, I don't wanna bring up a word, but this shooter or
Bring it up.
whatever was a
Um,
trans. Why do I'll
No,
what?
read a story like this particular person that shot someone or that, was a shooter was a trans that was trying to transition and the
Mhm.
medicine made him weird. I do read those stories.
Okay, well,
So
there's one thing I do want to say, um, that those stories, a lot of times, again, remember, we hear I would say probably 99 or probably 100% of what you know about trans people comes from who? Non-trans people, people who are not trans. These are people who are participating in a conversation. I don't
mhm,
imagine that the people that are the sources of those stories, I don't imagine that there's any situation that they would want to be inclusive of trans people in this in this where we are now.
hmm.
okay,
Um, and so it's really important to get it from the source. Now, I
okay.
don't know any shooters, and I'm strongly against
Yeah,
gun violence and all of these different things. But being trans, it's so strange. The argument seems to be that being trans, and taking medically transitioning, taking hormones, makes you a
yeah,
shooter.
the
And that's
drug.
not true,
Yeah,
because trans people take the same exact hormones
okay.
that you or anyone who's perimenopausal, I'm not saying
Hmm.
that you are, but anyone who's older who may take certain hormone replacement therapy to sort of regulate their endocrine system, anyone who has a deficiency, people who there are youngsters who develop too fast, because of probably the hormones that are in the milk and all that stuff. But that's a different
Yeah,
conversation. There are youngsters who are just cisgender, non-trans people, young girls who get breast tissue and start to develop and hit puberty at very early ages. They are prescribed medication if their parents, alongside their parents and their doctors, if it seems like it's medically necessary, which a lot of times it is, are prescribed medication and therapies to deal with what they call like precocious puberty, right? And and a whole host of other conditions and things needs that people would have to have hormones. Hormones are not new, and they weren't invented for trans people. We are taking the same hormones that everyone else is prescribed.
okay,
They do
okay.
the same
Yeah,
things to us. And so if hormones, or if estrogen causes you to become a school shooter, then it's not just trans people that would be doing this. You know what I mean? And the evidence, but all that aside, we don't even have actual evidence that there's a correlation between being trans and school shootings. There are different people who have the profile is different for a lot of people. Most of the school shooters, or most of the shooters, period, are men generally, and most of them are white men
Hmm.
and heterosexual, non-trans. But there is the exception to every single rule. And that means that there might be trans people who are violent. But I bet that what all the school shooters have in common It's not that they're all trans, because we know that they're not all trans. I know that people are trying to kind of secretly
Mhm.
seep that into our mind. Now, every school shooter, that everyone that's ever had a gun has been trans. I know that's what they're trying to hypnotize us into thinking, but that's
Mhm.
not true. They're ignoring the school shooting that happened today. They're ignoring the one that happened yesterday, because one happens every single a mass shooting happens every single day in our country, and they are usually white straight men. But that
Mhm.
aside, what one trans person who's allegedly trans, because we don't know, we haven't heard from them. I've not heard them say they're trans. I haven't heard anything out of their mouth. But one person who might be trans, and we're using trans loosely, because if you look at a picture of them, they haven't done a medical transition. So what is it how are we classifying them as trans? But that's a different conversation, because I don't know exactly which one you're talking about. Um, what one school shooter who might be trans has in common with all the other school shooters is more likely, maybe there's a mental health issue,
Mental
access to,
health.
access to
Mental
guns.
health. There
Yeah,
you
but
go.
it's
Bingo.
not just mental health, and it's not that they're trans. And I want to be really clear when we talk about the mental health of trans people, of LGBT people. A lot of these statistics are suddenly recognized by people who are anti-trans without understanding the cause. And
Mhm.
the cause of these mental health issues for many people is their environment. I'm talking about whether they're trans or not. A lot of times the environment has a lot to do with the situation that a person is in mentally, and that needs to be taken into consideration. Now, when it comes to trans people and any mental health complications that they may have, it is their it's important to look at their surroundings. I didn't talk about this, and I don't talk about this often, but the bullying that I experienced every single day had an impact on me. I did attempt suicide. I was
I'm
not
sorry.
successful. It's
Good.
okay, but that's not because I came out of my mom's womb saying, "I need to kill myself." It was
Yeah.
Mhm.
because I was like, I would rather hurt myself than go to school and experience more beating, more teasing, all of these things from 1st grade all the way through high school. And so, I mean,
Yeah.
how many years is that? That's a lot. And so
Mhm.
that is something it's really important to pay attention to that and consider that, which means you have to listen to the trans person in question and
Mhm.
understand more about them rather than profiling them based on what you think. Because the therapies that doctors use to treat trans people, in the way that they treat them, it's not about making someone female or making someone male, because those are sex characteristics, right? That are more reproductive and clinical. We're talking about making someone feel more at ease in their body, and also, if they want, passes through life without being teased and without being sort of like targeted and othered. And that is sort of the same thing that they have in mind when they go to treat a teenage boy who has gynecomastia, which is boobs, overdeveloped breast tissue for a boy, can be a huge source of teasing and bullying.
Right.
He may be suicidal as well. So what do? We take him to the doctor with his parents, and we give him the same thing that we would give to a trans person if they were wanting to stop breast development. If they were wanting to, for the young girl who's experiencing early puberty, stop breast development, she may get a breast reduction if she's of like a teenage, usually around teenage age is when a girl may get breast reduction. She may be eligible for it if her breasts are too big, if they're causing her back pain, if she's being overly sexualized, then that could be an option. These are the same surgeries and procedures that the doctor who you would take her to have a breast reduction, to have the young man have a breast reduction or get those are the same exact therapies and procedures and surgeries that that doctor would do on a trans person. And so I've
Okay.
spoken to many surgeons, and they say we don't like ask them if somebody comes in and says they want a breast augmentation to get larger breasts. We just look at whether or not they are a good candidate for that, and they can handle that in a healthy way, if their body will be able to carry it, and what size or whatever that's going to be. We don't ask them if they're trans or not. And so that's it's the same exact procedure. Like if I go to get a soda out of the soda machine doesn't ask me if I'm trans to get a soda machine. I'm getting the same soda that you're
Mm.
getting. I know that's a weird example, but like it's the same service. You just go and get the
Yeah.
service.
Yeah.
I mean, Mom, I think you
Okay.
two
You
are
taught me a lot. Thank you.
something that you kind of always miss, Mom, is like you're bringing up this shooter was trans. And like Peppermint's saying, maybe, maybe not. We don't know. Nobody's really gotten the details on whatever the specific story is you're saying. But you have to look at the source that you're getting that news from and what is
I
the
know.
motivation for that story.
You
So
always rip me on
Trump,
my sources.
Well, I think
but
that
no,
your
but it's
fear, like you have this irrational fear of transgender people because you don't
No,
understand
I
it.
don't.
And all you were
I don't
fed,
fear. I don't fear them. I just don't have knowledge or understand it. That is
right?
correct. But I don't fear
But
them.
I do think
Everyone's a person.
prior
Go ahead.
to I think this conversation today, certainly your attitude about trans people was quite different in a lot of our other podcasts. And I
Yes.
think that that is like this bullying, this call for them to not exist is 100% because Donald Trump and his administration are feeding you this fear that like they're chopping our kids up in school and there's an agenda and all this bullshit, but that's simply not true. And as I think now that you've met Peppermint, you can kind of conceptualize that like trans people are just fucking people, dude. They're just out here
Well,
living. Like we all want bodily
yeah.
autonomy. We all want, to
We,
call our own shots.
we want to be
And
happy.
she has
Everybody wants
beautifully
happiness.
articulated, she has beautifully articulated that there is no difference between a transgender kid and a cis het kid. Like we're all just fucking out here living. And so I think that you needed to talk to her today because I think that this has maybe changed your mind quite a bit.
Yes, I've enjoyed it. I love peppermint.
Oh, you're so sweet. I do want to say, we'll go back to one thing you said, Mom, where you mentioned about kids making the choice. And, the they're not really choosing much at that age, at a young age. And the classification, when we hear people talk about like youth, when they say trans youth, what pops in our head is like 2 year olds. But a lot of times, especially since they've raised the age in many states to qualify as youth or adult, from 18 to 19 with regards to transgender issues. Uh, with a lot of times we're talking about 16, 17, 18, 19 year olds when it comes to any
Older.
type of medical intervention. And
Mhm.
Right.
usually surgery is saved even before the Trump administration, before like 10 years ago. What was required in order to be trans was first at least a year of therapy with a psychiatrist, a
Hmm.
year of living presenting in the sort of gender that you want to. So wearing the clothing that you would eventually want to always wear for a year, living in that. Those were the two prerequisites. Then was moving to hormones and puberty and blockers, testosterone blockers. They call them puberty blockers for people who are under 18 or under 16, and then you call them just testosterone blockers for people who are obviously adults. But they're the same exact medications, maybe in different dosages. But this is something that is prescribed alongside from their doctor with their parents, and it's the same thing that their classmates might be receiving for that early puberty or that overgrown breast tissue or whatever they're getting. Now,
Can I,
that usually
can I,
doesn't happen in. Hmm?
can I ask one quick question?
Yeah.
Like in California, can children transition without a parent now at a certain age where the parent
What do you
has
mean by
does not have to
children?
be involved? What?
What do you mean by children? Like what age?
Like 16? I mean, see, this is somewhere I read this that they don't even
What do you-
need parents now along the way to transition
And what do you mean by transition? I'm going to answer your question, but I'm curious what you mean by transition.
medically. Medically,
Mhm. Well, uh,
I don't
medically
know that.
transition, it could be more than several things. I think one thing that where people's minds go who are not as experienced with trans folks is to surgery first.
Mhm.
Is
Oh,
that where your
okay.
mind is going?
Yes, that's where my mind's going.
So no, a doctor, whether you had a parent with you or not, a doctor would usually not. Now, I don't know every single doctor in the country. I've not talked to every single doctor in the country, but doctors who are board certified and qualified. I mean, listen, my landlord might say, God, the economy is bad. Let me try to go do something. Like, I don't, like people get, people do all kinds of stuff, right? So we're
That's New
not
York.
talking about that, right? We're talking about qualified, certified, accredited, board
Okay, yeah,
certified medical professionals who've
they
gone to
won't
medical
do that.
get
Yeah,
their
they won't do that.
degree. They are not operating on young kids at all. For the most
Okay,
part, in general, to get medications, you have to be 16 or older. To get
okay,
surgeries, you have to be 18 or older in general. Now, obviously, until now, 18-year-olds didn't need their that's considered a legal adult. So no, that is someone who didn't need their parents' permission to get medical procedures as an 18-year-old, but they're still under 25, right? So their health
okay.
insurance might treat them differently. So it's not a yes or no answer necessarily for everything. And if that person has, what if they're a trans person who does have an early puberty, and it's a young assigned female at birth person who doesn't want to be an adult with breasts, but also is now
Coming.
12 years
I have
old
to
and
go
they're
with
getting their
him.
breasts early, then they may be eligible for some type of blocker that would allow them to not develop breasts, which is the
Okay.
same thing that we would have given to the 12-year-old who
I'll be
wasn't
right
trans.
back. Oh my
Oh, she's
Oh
God, I'm so
God, our
sorry.
Oh,
dad.
is
Jesus.
that okay? I'm
He's
sorry. I
yelling at
know
her from the
What?
background. Um,
I know I'm
well,
yapping.
while she's gone, I have a question for you, Peppermint.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think the current or the most recent assassination attempt was real?
I can't
Come on, you know about reality TV.
listen. No, I don't. I mean, I have very little evidence. I can't even figure it out. There's very little evidence that that's convincing me that it was real or effective. I mean, I know that we are saying that people were shot, but like who was shot and where did the bullet holes go, and
Yeah.
was there more
Uh-huh.
than one shot? Because I thought on the first tape, it sounded like there was more than one, but it sounded like they were outside the room. And so
Yeah.
I just don't know how this shooting in another area is now considered an attempt on Trump. Now, it is a threat to the president if they're in the building and someone's brandishing a gun. I'll
Yeah.
give you that. But if they got taken down and they were nowhere near, the biggest danger is to everyone else in the area, like
Mm-hmm.
the people that are around them, the people that are closest
Yeah.
to that. And it seems like the focus has gone off of the journalists. The focus just seems to constantly go off the journalists
Mm-hmm.
in with this situation, where that was most of the people that were there. The majority of the room was full of people who were journalists, and I don't know how the room was set up, but if it was a typical banquet setup, that means there was the door, the room full of journalists as a buffer, and then
Mm-hmm.
Trump all the way in the back. Honey, if that shooter had shot up everybody, it would have been an hour before Trump would have gotten shot. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So like,
For
he
sure.
was fine.
This is, for what it's worth, this is my 2 cents on it.
Okay,
The
hit me.
things that make me extremely suspicious are the video of that guy supposedly running through the lobby, the picture of that
Yeah.
guy face
Mm-hmm.
on the carpet. That
Mm-hmm.
shit was out within seconds of the event. No
And his shirt was off.
investigation. Yeah, no, yeah, shirt was off, no crime scene. It was like, this is the guy, we
Right.
got him, everything's this. This is kind of what I think is happening. I could be wrong in this. If these assassination attempts are like real, I think
Mhm.
there might be some cadre within the Trump administration or the FBI or the CIA actively targeting people that they think they can like radicalize to try and do the assassination, because I think the Republicans, I think they want to assassinate Trump eventually. If they want
Oh
to
my
maintain
goodness, Chad.
control
Oh
in
my God.
politics, he cannot
Chad,
die
Chad,
in his
Chad.
bed at night. He must die a martyr so that they
Chad,
can
stop it.
use MAGA as they can like take it
Stop
over
it.
basically.
Let's go
Well, I
ahead
know
and
that one thing is gonna. Oh, go ahead, Mom.
the Jimmy Kimmel joke. Did you all think that was funny?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Peppermint?
I
Well,
didn't. I
boo.
don't think I heard the Jimmy Kimmel joke, so I heard it delivered by somebody who was not funny. I didn't see the video. Was there a video or was it a tweet of Jimmy Kimmel?
It was part of his monologue from like two
Mm-hmm.
nights
Okay, yeah,
before
I didn't hear him deliver
the
it.
dinner.
I probably would have
So
laughed if I'd heard him deliver it, but it was delivered by some news anchor. It wasn't.
Yeah.
With
Yeah.
nothing they say is funny. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But I will tell you that it's wild because there's several reasons to question or think that Trump, in his age, might not live for another 10 years. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like
For
Right.
sure.
he is of a certain age.
He's
And
old, you can
so,
say.
yeah.
He's old. He's
So,
old as shit. Yeah.
yeah. So his wife, who is not that age,
Right.
I'm sure it's crossed her mind once or twice that she's going to outlive him. And
Yes.
that's just a reality. Do you know what I mean?
But you're
Like, I know that.
talking about the joke he made to try to clean up the first joke. He said that she had the glow of a widow.
Mhm.
An
Yeah, wasn't
expectant
that the
widow.
joke?
Yeah,
That
that was
was
the
That was
his
joke.
the joke.
joke.
Yeah,
His
because
first joke.
Trump is old as shit, and it's very clear that he's on his way out. It had nothing to do with the assassination attempt.
I think it had everything to do with it. And shame on
But
all three of
What?
you. Boo, boo, boo.
It happened
he didn't have a
before the
glow of
assassination attempt. Is he a fucking psychic?
yeah,
No,
but
this was
yeah.
afterwards.
No, it wasn't.
No, the joke was delivered before
Yeah.
Oh, it was
the
Yes.
still
the
bad. I don't care if it was before or after. It was pretty bad.
Oh, girl, then that don't change. How's that change something, girl? Come on, girl, that ain't right.
No,
You know that ain't right,
no.
girl. You know I can't do that, girl.
Yes, I just did it. Yes, I just did it.
Well,
Oh my God.
okay, but
And
I
then
don't.
Caroline Leavitt also before the dinner said Trump's
Oh
going to have
God.
a lot of shots come out of this. He's going to have
Shots
some
So
big
what do
fired.
you
shots.
think about that?
And that was not talking about a gunshot. That was talking about Trump was going to come out with some
But
zingers on people
okay,
at
then
that.
why
So you
was
at his
Jimmy
think the
speech.
Kimmel
glow
talking
of
about
a
a gunshot?
widow? You think the glow
Jimmy,
of this mentioning the
Jimmy,
glow of a widow, who from Jimmy
yes.
Kimmel, that is not in reference to Trump's age and the fact that he's definitely going to die sooner than most of us are going to. Had nothing to do with that, and had everything to do with a shooting that hadn't yet
You
happened.
know,
But
I can
what's
take
her
I can
name?
take jokes. I can take jokes. I can take jokes
Oh,
about me. We've even got
No,
this
you
guy
can't.
named Joel something that's doing jokes on us. But when it turns more toward death or sexual stuff, forget it. That's not right.
what?
It's not my
Jimmy.
taste. It's not my taste. And to be honest with you, I just wanted to make it through the weekend without being blamed for this attempted shooting because they're
Yeah.
blaming Mom. You already
Yes.
did it.
Yes.
Blaming trans people.
Yeah.
I can
For
guarantee you
what?
they're going to try to. They're going to use the fact that he once looked at gay porn and say, "Well,
Mm.
he's
I never
trans."
even now guess what? I'll be
What?
honest. I never read anything about that. I read that
I
shooter was
know.
very,
I'm
very educated, a very good man. He was a teacher. That's all I've read. He had his
Let's wait,
manifesto.
girl. They're going to wait.
What?
They're going to figure it out.
Oh,
They're going to
you
try.
think they're
I'm
going
not
to throw
forcing
something
it.
out
They
there?
did it with the
Okay.
Well,
guy
they did
in
it with
Butler.
Charlie Kirk.
Oh, was it Charlie Kirk or was it the Butler, Pennsylvania guy?
It
It
was
was Charlie
it was
Kirk's guy
both with the Charlie Kirk dude. You
with the
know, he was
fuzzy,
Was
the
texting
he
his
was
fuzzy
trans
eyes.
girlfriend or
texting.
something, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
texting his
Yeah.
girlfriend that they're
Who?
claiming is trans and that they're furries and all this
Right.
shit, and he's giving her the Great Gatsby via
Okay,
text
I shouldn't have
message. Oh,
started. We shouldn't have gone down this
Okay.
because
All
I
right.
got someone
No,
yelling at me.
I
Help
brought up
me.
the assassination attempt. My apologies.
Okay.
We can table that. Let me just say thank you, Peppermint, so much for doing
Thank
this.
you.
This
Yeah.
is beyond an honor for me personally, given your status in reality television
the
history.
repertoire.
But I really can't thank you enough for giving us your time and having this conversation with my mom, who I think it might have helped.
Yes, it has. I like
Okay.
Peppermint.
Yeah.
Progress
it
maybe has
too.
been made here. This is
Yeah.
I like
fantastic.
Peppermint.
We made some
But please
progress.
tell everybody where they can check out any of your stuff that you want them to check out.
They can check me out on socials, on all socials, Peppermint247, and they can keep their eyes peeled on Netflix for season 1 and season 2 first of Survival of the Thickest, which is a
Oh,
half-hour
boy.
comedy that I'm on, and we're getting ready to release season 3 on Netflix this summer.
That's
Fantastic.
awesome.
In RU. That's the best place to be, in my opinion, if you're in any kind of television. So congratulations on that. And thank you everybody for joining us. Before we go, we always like to do something on this show, despite our political differences, our ideological differences. Haley, thank you for being here today. I know Wednesday is hard for you to make. I love you. Mom, thank you for being here for this conversation. I know you're going through a lot right now with Dad. I love you too. And Peppermint, I sincerely cannot thank you enough for doing this. I love you from the bottom of my heart.
Oh,
Mom,
y'all
I
are
love you. Chad, I love you. Peppermint, thank you so much. I love you as well. I'm still pissed that you got thrown out of Traders so early. Yeah, really sorry about that. I wanted to see you
I
go the
know.
distance.
Chad, I love you. Haley, I love you. Peppermint, I love you. Thank you for being on the show.
Chad, Haley, Mom, I love you so much. Thank you very much for having me as a guest.
Yay!
Mwah.